Welcome to the last call. Perhaps the last call there may ever be. Who knows? It'd be wrong to jump to that conclusion. With me, John Sweeney, I'm in London, and in New York, Mike Weiss. Mike, what's been happening? I haven't been following the news today.
You've been hiding behind the sofa, mortal terror of losing your 500 quid. I think it's safe to say, someone corrected me on the Twitter account that you've actually made 750 because of the odds. So congrats, man. Your granddaughter is well taken care of.
Let's wait and see.
No, it's all over but the shouting now.
What about the legal? Talk me through the legal challenges.
There are none. I mean, the complaints that they filed had been rejected. Georgia's doing a recount of its own volition simply because the result is too narrow there. I think it's like 1,900 votes. So it's within a margin of error. But I mean, it's political theater. It's a kind of a way of keeping this disinformation narrative going for the Trumpkins so that people will turn out and protest. I don't know. There seems to be, according to the reporting, a dawning sense on the president that it's all over. But of course, he is resisting. He is tweeting lies about voter fraud and manipulation and all the rest of it. But I kind of feel like this stuff won't matter very much. When the media calls it, I mean, CNN in particular, the New York Times, Biden is giving a speech alongside Kamala Harris at around 8 o'clock tonight. Probably they'll have a victory sewn up by then. And the nice thing is, Biden doesn't even need to win Georgia. He's probably going to win Pennsylvania first. In Nevada, he's doubled his lead. It's like 20,000 votes. So there are 4 outlines. He's leading in all of them. It would be a real cherry on top if he swept all of them, because then the idea that this was an unsuccessful campaign or that it was a squeaker is debunked. He will have won, I think, around 306 electoral votes, the same as Donald Trump did in his 2016 quote unquote landslide. He will have eclipsed Donald Trump in the popular vote by over 4 million votes. And he's already won the historical prize, which is more votes for him than any other US presidential candidate in American history. So this is, I mean, if it's not quite a blowout.
Let's stop there and then drink to that.
Cheers. If it's not quite a blowout, it's pretty fucking good. And people, fine. The Democratic Party has some inventory to take about, the losses in the House and not flipping the Senate. Fine. And there's already been reporting about centrist candidates who were literally crying down the telephone in some press pool or in some rather internal Democratic House phoner that the progressive stuff, the stuff that I mentioned, the wokeness, defund the police, socialism, all of these things really hurt them at the polls. Fine, all of that to one side. We can have that conversation tomorrow and the next day and then over the course of the next couple of years. Bottom line is Joe Biden will be the next president, and there's not a goddamn thing Donald Trump can do about it to stop it. Truly. It's not close. This will not be a close election. The reason it felt close and the reason it still continues to feel a bit close is because of the virus, right? All of these people who sent in mail-in ballots, the overwhelming majority of whom seem to be voting democratically. Why? Because the Democratic Party said, you can do this. This is legal. You can mail your vote in if you're afraid of catching the plague by turning up on election day. Donald Trump told his supporters, don't do this. Don't send your ballots in. Turn up on the day up. So of course those votes got counted first. The mail-ins, like in Pennsylvania, where they weren't allowed to start counting until after. All of this it's just we're catching up. This is the result, and the result is resoundingly for Biden.
And Trump himself voted by mail.
Sure, why not? I mean,
he did.
Okay.
So he's a complete hypocrite on that. Who's going to tell him, Mr. President, you've got to leave, otherwise.
So yesterday, I really wanted Roger Stone to be the one to tell him. Today, I alternate between a Kanye West purchased hologram of Roy Cohn or Al Pacino playing Roy Cohn in Angels in America. Because Al Pacino's Roy Cohn is indistinguishable from Al Pacino's Shylock in Merchant of Venice. And I feel like those two characters, you know, a Jewish usurer and McCarthy's counsel, will have more persuasive ability on the psyche of the now outgoing president of the United States. So that's who I'd like to see. But no, I think he knows. I think this is all now, again, he's doing the pantomime. Fake news, stolen election. And I actually anticipate there's going to be a counter inauguration for him, a political rally where he's going to claim that he won the election. Why not? There's nothing to stop him.
Where, in Belarus?
Why not Pyongyang? I mean, fuck, you know, like.
Well, I've been there. I've been at the food's awful. By the way, there's an awful lot of kind of weird, kind of Macbeth style, vengeance is mine. So Georgia, the home of John Lewis, is the county, the state that that secures almost victory, and he gets victory in Pennsylvania, where he was born. But I hope and pray the place that really, really, really delivers it is Arizona.
Yeah, because
you can hear the ghost of John McCain rattling his chains and going, ha ha ha. I don't like presidents who lose elections. Ha ha ha. There's somebody else.
I thought it's John McCain beaming down from heaven. I prefer presidents who don't lose Arizona. You know. But yeah, there's so much poetic justice to so much that's happening right now. I mean, I am tracking, and I have an unending wellspring of Schadenfreude and derision and pure fucking ecstasy watching all of these mercenary party political Republicans who bowed down, lickspittles, bent the knee before this personality cult, now realizing the personality is on the way out, therefore the cult has gone poof, right? Yeah. I mean, you've got Rush Limbaugh making jokes about Tom Daschle, who hasn't been in elected government for like 15 years. You've got Lindsey Graham talking about a balanced budget. They're all like, they've retreated down their own memory hole. They're already acting like this was some anomaly and it didn't exist. And how are we going to kind of recalibrate the party back to conventional conservatism? Which is why I'm a little bit skeptical of this argument. Well, Trump lost, but Trumpism lives on. I mean, look, Trumpism, if you want to define it as some version of economic populism, an anti-immigration stance or policy, isolationism in terms of foreign policy, these things predated him and they will continue well after him. The thing that made Trumpism a phenomenon was Donald Trump, the singular diseased personality and this kind of carnival spectacle of just a pure unmitigated id with no filter, saying outrageous things, titillating certain people, angering and frustrating a lot of other people, but just something you just could not take your eyes off of. So show me who is the standard bearer of Trumpism without Donald Trump. The closest candidate for that is Tom Cotton. And Tom Cotton is Milhouse from The Simpsons, right? He does not have what it takes to don this mantle of this kind of smash mouth, carnival barker idiocy. He just doesn't. So I think that actually Trumpism, such as it is going to dissipate. I mean, you're going to have the Tea Party, you're going to have right-wing Republicans, you're going to have racism, you're going to have all of these other things, but Trumpism, as it's being defined now, this is on the way out. I just don't see it. It does not exist without the man.
One of my pals, Owen Phillips, who produced the BBC documentary about Murdoch, said, "What about Ivanka? Is it Ivanka going to tell Trump?"
First of all, I mean, Ivanka's a fucking liberal, and so is Jared Kushner. I mean, these are people who would be voting Democratic in most elections. I mean, they're star fuckers and they're celebrity. They're part of this New York literati scene. It's just, again, beholden to this McDonald's gorging obese Babbitt, who is the paterfamilias, right? When he's gone, watch, you'll see. They are going to suck up to everybody. They're going to want to be invited to all the nice parties on the Upper East Side. They're going to pretend, oh, this never happened. We didn't put children in cages. We did our best. If you think things were bad, you should have seen it. Like, you know, even Lenoir's famous line. You know, if you think I'm nasty now, imagine me without original sin. They're going to say, if you think Trump was bad then, imagine him without us as the restraining force in that White House. Fuck them. Fuck them all. I just did a recording with the former president of Estonia, Toomas Ilves, and you know, he brings up the point. He's like, America does not get to pretend like this did not happen, right?
Yes.
Did not. You need lustration. You need truth and reconciliation. And yeah, fine, okay. All elected Republicans who bent the knee, these people cannot be purged. These people are not going to be out of power. You're going to have to make some kind of accommodation with them. And Joe Biden has already indicated he's going to do exactly that. But, you know, Stephen Miller, Rick Grinnell, fuck them. I mean, you know, they are moral cancers upon the nation, and they should never get on television again. They should never work in any kind of public service role ever again. And every time their name comes up, the answer should be, fuck off. Fuck off. You did a great deal of harm to this country. We are glad to see the back of you. Now, of course, that's not going to happen. They're going to get book deals and they're going to get their little contributorships on Fox News, but whatever, you know, the rest of civilized society, American civilized society, can move on. And the nice thing about this is, you know, the fish rots from the head, right? He's going to scream and shout. Even Twitter has said, as an ex-president, guess what? We'll fucking delete your account. You're going to carry on like this? We are under no obligation to give you this platform.
And to honor Steve Bannon and his call for the beheading of Fauci, and is it the head of the FBI? What I'm kind of I'd like to walk over the weekend to the Tower of London just to check that both Fauci and the head of the FBI's heads aren't on pikes, so I can accurately report, no, that's not happening. But there is a kind of weird thing. By the way, while we're dealing with
by the way, Steve Bannon, The Guardian had the best photograph of Steve Bannon when Twitter decided, and I think YouTube also took down his account. And there's a photograph of Steve Bannon, and I said, this is what Radovan Karadzic would look like if he could crystal meth out of a toilet in Dubuque, right? This is exactly what you want, Steve Bannon. I mean, it's like Dorian Gray. It's like this is the Bannon coming out in his physical appearance. So yeah, he's gone a bit ISIS, and he's like, let's chop some heads. Fuck him. Fuck him. You have no power. You know, we're done. We're finished.
Your time is over. Goodbye. By the way, it's Radovan Karadzic is how you would pronounce it.
You're gonna screw with my Serbian pronunciation. I'm having a good time, John. I'm enjoying it.
He was quite a good. I met in Sarajevo. I was interested in madness during the time of the siege, and I met I found a psychiatrist, and I said, "So, how are you?" And she was lovely. She was a Bosnian Muslim psychiatrist, and she was deeply disturbed, but still fair-minded. And she said his patients, even his Bosnian Muslim patients, they liked him. He was a good psychiatrist. And then he lost the plot. And he wrote this crazy poem. So farewell then, Sarajevo, your aortas will gush without me. Now, actually, that didn't turn out to be true. Their aortas did gush because of him. But there's this strange kind of mind fuck, and then he goes off and becomes a faith healer in the middle of nowhere, and God knows what happens to Trump afterwards. By the way, while we're talking about John Lewis, talking about John McCain, there's somebody I'm thinking about today. It was this wonderful Village Voice reporter called Wayne Barrett. Yeah. Sure. So he was. I've done a film with our 3 listeners. Can watch it. It was a
we've as far as we can go viral, you know, me the angry self-hating liberal from New York, and you the sort of stream of consciousness Carl Pilkington from London. We have gone viral. Like you should see the account. It's blowing up. We got new followers all over the place, and people are correcting our
You know,
maths, like
I
John
always,
King on CNN.
in British terms, it's funnier to be so self-deprecating, but you're not really. That's where I. That's
Well,
where
yeah, we definitely have more. It's more the Anglo than the American. I think
Yeah.
American audiences don't know what to do with this, and God help them. But the Brits actually quite enjoy seeing, two, well, in my case, middle-aged. In your case, a bit more than that. Kind of have a mental and emotional breakdown.
I'll do the your phone is pinging because mine's.
Yeah, it's my wife. I'm interviewing the former president of Estonia, and my daughter comes in and starts screaming at me. I mean, it's the way we live now, Whilst we're on the air, I'm going to text my wife. I will meet you for a drink in 20 minutes. Okay, just
okay.
Full transparency to my listeners. What do you want from me? Like, this is just it.
So let me tell our free listeners the story of Wayne Barrett. So Wayne Barrett is a guy who's on Trump's case again and again and again in the 80s, and Trump hates him, and he's doing stories about Trump connected with the mob, connected with the New Jersey mafia, which is actually at this point far more murderous than the New York mafia. So the Gambinos are patsies as opposed to the crime family who run New Jersey, and in particular Atlantic City. And the allegation is, it's denied, but the allegation is that Trump pays off the New Jersey mafia to set up an Atlantic City. He set one of his casinos open, and Wayne Barrett is the journalist that Donald Trump hates the most. Tim O'Brien is his researcher, and Tim O'Brien is not on Trump's radar, gets into the party and works out a way of opening a back door so that Wayne Barrett gets into the casino opening party and goes to Mr. Trump and says, I just want to ask you a few more questions about you and the New Jersey mob. At which point, Trump's security, who are Atlantic City police officers moonlighting for the Trump security, so that it's to say he's paying both ends. They arrest him roughly, and they take him to the tank, and they put him in a cell with a black prisoner who has got some mental issues. And Wayne Barrett told me the story, and he said that the man, we were both chained to the radiator, and the man masturbated the entire night. And the point is that the Atlantic City police officers knew that they couldn't really hold this good reporter. They could hold him overnight because of something, and they'd have to let him go in the morning, but they made his night as miserable as possible. And I interviewed Wayne in 2016 about Trump and his legacy, his links, his love affair with Roy Cohn, this evil lawyer, and then his relationship with Fat Tony Salerno. He bought the concrete for Trump Tower, which is a concrete-only building. He bought that from Fat Tony, and Fat Tony ran concrete in Manhattan for the mob, for the Gambinos and the Genovese crime families. And I asked, and it's there, it's still up. And Wayne was great. He was a great character. I said, tell me about Fat Tony. And he said, Fat Tony was fat. Wonderful, wonderful storyteller. And he told me this dark story off camera about being locked up. And so Trump did that to me deliberately to fuck my head. And then I said, how do you feel about Trump running for president? And Wayne said, I'm afraid. I'm very afraid. And he died of cancer. He was dying of cancer then, and he died later that year before Trump got elected. And
I'll tell you another. So New York tabloid journalists of an older vintage and a certain kind of discipline. I'm thinking of Jimmy Breslin, Wayne Barrett qualifies because, Village Voice, more or less a tabloid.
He was a brave reporter.
Yeah. So there's a guy, a former colleague of mine, no, it's technically still a colleague, Mike Daly, who's at the Daily Beast, who is an old school Irish crime reporter And he's done these pieces on Fat Tony Salerno and Trump and all this stuff. And I remember in 2016, we had in the Daily Beast office, we had the monitors up for all the major cable news networks. And he's watching Trump at one of these rallies, and Trump, he's been covering Trump and writing about this for years. And he just looks at him and he's like, "She's fucked," meaning Hillary Clinton. He's like, "This is a guy who is going to completely steamroll her, discombobulate her." And again, it's this lurid kind of, strange appeal that he has, where he can, even people who hate him, they are transfixed by the spectacle of him. And Mike Daly turned out to be right. New York tabloid journalists who covered Trump knew that Trump had a better shot of winning than your correspondent for the Washington Post or the New York Times or the New Yorker.
Yeah.
And
they felt it. That I can remember.
They felt it, and they understood, and they you grow close to your subject, but in a good way when you're covering it for that long. Especially the ones who had sort of a crime beat as well, because Americans love, as a matter of popular culture, Americans love villains and criminals, particularly the larger than life criminal, and that's what he is. I mean, he's a con artist.
Not just Americans. I think all of us, or the vast majority of us, are decent people who try and do our best in life, and we fail, obviously, and we're not as good as we should be. But fundamentally, most people are good and try and do the right thing as best they can within the limits of the spectacles they may or may not be wearing. But all of us are fascinated by evil, and the darker fascination is successful evil. So that, like, the idea that actually I've lived my entire life the wrong way round, in that I've only ever that there is, if you are a complete bastard and behave disgracefully, you can become the president of the United States. That's what that happened. Yeah. That happened with Trump. However, I thought there was something really quite, I've slept like 4 hours in the last, I've slept more than John King, but nevertheless, a
fellow Irishman, raise your glass to John.
Yeah.
By the way, Irish Twitter has had the best coverage of the US election. So our friend Declan Lawn,
yes,
like John King lives rent-free in Declan's head. He said he went to the fridge and he says, "Is that a piece of cheese? Let me explain to you how that might not be a piece of cheese," because he's thinking only in terms of CNN election forecasting. Ryanair took a snapshot of Eric Trump, who looks like a dog who's gone through the car wash with the top down, and said, "You look like a guy who's no longer going to get to ride on Air Force One." Luckily, Ryanair rates are at an all-time low. So God bless Irish Twitter. I hope to join their ranks very shortly once I get my citizenship. But I'm waiting on that as much as I'm waiting on the official declared result of this election. So
the one is the future of the world in balance. The other is that you get to jump some queues, which at the moment I need to investigate whether my grandfather, who was where he left the family, I don't know where he was born, and I need to if I can figure that out, I might end up. I think my grandfather was born in Glasgow, my dad's dad, in which case I'm sunk, unless, of course, Scotland gets independence, and then I can, anyway, never mind, it's way too complicated and boring.
Yeah, I was told for 30 some odd years, my grandfather was born in Cork, which, when a Corkman goes on Irish telly, they have subtitles.
Yeah, I was
like, and I have a friend, Padre Ridey in the UK, who's a Corkman. Yeah. And I was like, solidarity with the Corkman. I get the genealogical data that I had to enter in for the Irish birth certificate. I get it back, and it says, actually, he's Monaghan. So literally as geographically far before you get into Northern Ireland as you can get within the Republic of Ireland.
Yeah.
Mom doesn't even know who her own father was, but that's neither here nor there. So anyway, yes, no, it is very nice to have that direct conduit into the European Union.
Yes.
Into Europe as a whole.
Well,
even
lucky
if other
you.
people want to leave.
There's
So the
something
fact
else
that I'm more European than you, or I will be in a matter of months, amuses me, tickles me pink, because you're going to be on your little island Britain. You and Nigel Farage.
Do not excuse me. Nigel Farage once said that I caused him more difficulty. I caused him more trouble than anyone else in 25 years in politics.
And what did you do?
He did there was, after the Brexit referendum, there was a Polish guy who was killed in Essex in a town called Harlow, and this poor guy was having a drink with his mates, and there was a nasty piece of work, a lad who hit him on the jaw because he was talking Polish, and the guy fell back and fell on a brick or a brick wall, back of his head, and died. It was manslaughter, not murder. The kid never meant to kill the guy, but nevertheless, the guy died. And I went to Harlow the next day and interviewed somebody, a Polish chap who knew the dead man. He said, "I'm very angry with senior politicians, but I don't want to name names." And I said, "Name names." And he said, "Nigel Farage has blood on his hands." And then necessarily we put in an insurance policy. There is no question that Nigel Farage, had anything to do with this killing. But the later decision of the BBC management, the jellyfish as I like to call them, was that my insurance policy was too short and I needed a bit longer. But what happened was, winding the clock forward, is the guy, the assailant, who was like a 16-year-old kid, difficult, horrible, difficult upbringing and all of that, but he was convicted of manslaughter. And then his defense barrister came up and said the Polish guy was very drunk and racist. And one of the other kids, with the kid who hit and killed the Polish guy, was black. And so this line was was reported, and then Farage picked on it and then said what really happened was there was no, sorry, to take you back a step, the police said that it was a race crime when it happened because somebody said, "Fuck you, you Polish cunt," bang. Now, they never were able to find out who said that, but it was reported. There was a witness, but the witness didn't know who it was, so they prosecuted on the manslaughter, not on the race hate crime bit. I understand why. Farage said it was never a race crime. It was only ever an accident or a killing, which is, wrong, but not deliberately meant. And I met Farage when Trump arrived in London, and I wanted to interview him about Trump arriving in London. I said, "I'm not talking to you because you lied about this thing." And I said, "No, I didn't. What you said was you gave the defense's plea in mitigation after he'd been found guilty by the court. But at no time did the court stand over the point, the argument, the assertion made by the defense in mitigation that this was not a race crime. It's an assertion by somebody who's been convicted of manslaughter. Do not confuse the two." Anyway.
And here I was thinking the hardest day you ever gave Nigel Farage was chaining him to a radiator while you masturbated. The only thing I
by
can
the way,
have,
hold on a second. No. I'm going to deny. I'm going to. Hold on. I'm denying that straight away.
I gave you uninterrupted airtime for about 3 minutes.
No. You've just
to hear this quite tragic tale.
Anyway,
I wrote a piece.
I do not. All I'm saying, Mike. I need to deny what you've just asserted. I have no sexual fantasy for Nigel Farage whatsoever.
I didn't say you had to.
And secondly, both of us made a bet. He put £10,000 on Trump to win, and I put £500 on Biden to win in March. I'm not a rich man. I'm nothing like as wealthy as he is, but I think I'm going to win.
You've already won. I said this at the outset. I mean, you've got.
Well, I haven't. Until it's legal. Until I can't. It's pointless going to the.
In my little scrapbook of ironies about this whole sordid saga, two of my favorite are the following. The deep state, if it existed, would have sorted this within hours. They wouldn't have taken a week. The Bay of Pigs was shorter than this election, right?
Yes.
So much for the CIA running, so much for QAnon's conspiracy. Number two, Fox News called Arizona and stuck to the guns.
Yeah.
Which was actually stupid of them and premature. But again,
I think it was Rupert.
And so the so-called fake news liberal media, namely CNN, MSNBC, have been quite conservative in their forecast of states. And if these guys really were as sinister and as tendentious as the president claims that they are, they would have stitched this up for Biden long ago. So here you have Donald Trump's only source, apart from OANN, or the OANists, as I like to call them, only source of information, Fox News, telling him before they should have done, you're probably going to lose. And the enemies of the state, as he puts it, or the enemies of the people, saying, well, hang on, there's more to be done. There's more to be counted. Let's just let the wonks and the pencil pushers do their thing. Isn't that interesting?
Yes.
His entire cultural argument collapses at the very moment of his political demise. And chef's kiss, as they say on Twitter. You could not have asked for a better outcome than that.
I feel, I wrote on Twitter the other day, whenever it was, 3 o'clock in the morning, you can't, I look at CNN, John Kidd, his knowledge is amazing. And I felt that during the last 4 years, I think I've hated the USA, and I have deliberately conspired not to go there. And in the last 4 days, I've fallen in love with it all over again. I've fallen in love. I mean, the moment the Georgia vote came up, I put Georgia on your mind. I've been listening to Springsteen, Pennsylvania. I've been watching, and everybody should watch it.
Springsteen, Pennsylvania?
Yeah. Whatever it is. He's from New Jersey, yeah? Yeah. I know nothing.
Big difference there.
Anyway, sorry. Okay. The point stands that suddenly, for me and loads of people like me in Britain, around the world, in Ireland, wherever, that America has been deeply unfashionable, and suddenly it's fashionable. It feels good again.
Yeah, but it was deeply unfashionable under George W. Bush and the invasion of Iraq. So don't worry, it'll be unfashionable again soon. The big question I have is watching the kids in Philly, doing the dancing, and there was somebody with a ballot box on his head, and you just, that's cool. And then the mayor of Philadelphia saying, I just want the president to put his big boy pants on. Oh, man, what a great guy. No, man, look, so talking to Farage, he did this little fucking tour of downtown Washington, D.C., where everything was boarded up and all this stuff. And, he's just, I think of all, and I don't just mean the Brits, but I think of all the people from the Anglosphere outside of the United States who come to America and are genuinely fascinated by it, right? You've got Christopher Hitchens, the great late Robert Hughes, the art critic, who has a wonderful series, which I've been posting.
He's an Oz. He's an Oz.
What? He's
He's
dead.
Australian.
Yeah, I know, but I said the Anglosphere. Australia,
All right,
I'm
okay,
using
all
the
right.
Robert
Yeah,
Conquest definition of Anglosphere. By the way, Robert Conquest lived in Palo Alto or somewhere around Stanford because he was part of the Hoover Institution. I put him in that lot too.
Yes.
You have a great tradition.
Well, Aldous Huxley.
Huxley, well, yeah, but no, sorry, I mean like that's like the W.H. Auden line, you know, what's his name? Isherwood's religion is, quote, Southern California. When they go to the West Coast, they go a bit doodah. Even Woodhouse was a bit too like strange when he moved. Didn't he move to the West Coast? Yeah, because he did Hollywood stuff, right? But he started on Broadway, so he started East Coast. So I'm gonna give him a pass. But when the Brits and even the Canadians and the Australians come here with a genuine fascination and interest in the United States, I mean, just look at Stephen Fry's kind of tour, like his tours of America, doing essentially what Oscar Wilde did when he went and visited the coal miners, and I forget what state that was. That is the best kind of foreign correspondence I've ever seen, because they really understand America in a way that Americans don't understand themselves. But when you get a piece of shit like Nigel Farage coming, and it's this bleak dystopian hellscape that he's presenting, and you know, Donald Trump is first of all, how'd you get here? Like, we're supposed to be in a pandemic. Isn't there kind of lockdown in the UK? Well, what plane did you get on? Fuck off. You know, that's the dark side of it, of this kind of reverse cultural export. All the grifters, all the frauds, Piers Morgan, they all come here for a spell, and then they get chucked back the fuck home. But the good ones, the successful ones, the ones who don't confuse Pennsylvania for New Jersey or Bruce Springsteen for I don't even know who's from Pennsylvania making good music. Those are the ones who stick around, and that's the ones that we like. So that's my special relationship right there.
However, we should close this because you've got to go see your missus, and I've got to open another bottle of Italian red. But I feel proud of the United States of America.
Yeah.
I feel proud of the Cantors. I feel proud of CNN. I'm proud of John King. I even feel proud of knowing you.
That's, you must be in a really rip-roaring mood if you're going to say something like that.
No, it's been, no, I'm hoping this is the end. You know, that there isn't some, that what happens next is that that Trump slowly disappears, like in the end of the Wizard of Oz, the witches. You know, that she disappears into a
They just won't. I mean, he doesn't set the agenda anymore. His tweets do not become the front page story anymore.
I don't have to. When I wake up at 4 o'clock in the morning because I'm an old man, need a pee, and then I, you know, foolishly switch my phone on, and then I see, oh Christ, look what he's done now. You know, he's done some awful thing. And I mean, I've lost so much sleep, so much, and all the good proper stories. People like you and I should be working on stories of corruption and darkness in Africa and Asia, in Europe, at home and abroad. We haven't done, because we've got to look at the lunatic in the White House. That's over.
Yeah, so I mean, for me, the hope for my country, everyone's talking about a divided America. The soul of America is split down the middle. There's a cultural Cold War. Look, you know, it's like the great anti-totalitarian intellectuals, particularly in the latter half of the Cold War, started thinking of ways to fight the regime and to fight this sort of superstructure created by Stalinism. And they came up with all sorts of concepts, and one by the Czech writer Václav Benda was the parallel polis, right? You create almost an alternate reality, certainly a political reality, for the kind of state you want to inhabit. Well, here, it's that concept kind of turned on its head. So let the fucking lunatics and the alt-right and the Pepe Frog wearing avatars on Twitter and the QAnon nutters and, you know, the White House dead enders, let them create a parallel polis of morons where they can genuinely think that Donald Trump is still president of the United States, but it has no constitutional backing. It has no legal legitimacy. And the rest of us can get on with our fucking lives. That to me will be fine, because eventually you'll stop paying attention to that. And yeah, they're probably going to do some awful shit. There's probably going to be shootings. There's going to be carnage. There's going to be who knows what, certainly using digital technology, which has been their mainstay right now. But eventually they're going to run out of steam because nobody's paying attention. And they don't feel like they are running the levers of the state, which they have felt like they have done for the last 4 years. Yes. So I'm a little bit more, like I said, optimistic. Things are going to get rough, but in the long run, as I say, show me Trump 2.0. Where is the singular personality? Who embodies it? I don't see a player. Maybe someone will come along, but right now it's a fallow field. These people are going to be howling into the abyss. They're started already, and they will be doing it. Meanwhile, you know, President Joe will be setting policy, and life will go on. And then, fortunately, in our so-called profession, we will begin to pay attention to things other than ourselves, and other than, you know, the domestic sphere, which has been almost paralyzing for journalism in the last 4 years. We will pay attention to the world again. So, and you know me, I'm not rose-tinted glasses. I don't, you know, it never occurs to me to don them. It's just at this moment, I feel there is some cause for, certainly cause for celebration, but also some cause for feeling okay, that things will be fine.
No, I have, it's the first time in big politics since, for the last 5 years, since it's like 2015, from 2015 onwards, you could smell the fear, you could smell that things were going wrong, feel that things were going wrong. 2016 was a dark year, and we've lived with the consequences. Now we are in Britain still living with that, but it's a, you know, huge difference. That part of the deal with Brexit is we can flog Brexit to Trump. Well, Trump's like Trump lost. He is no more.
Brexit is forever. Donald Trump is Johnny Friedland of the Guardian said it best. You know, Brexit's forever. Donald Trump 4 to 8 years. Well, it turns out to be 4. So
yeah, he's gone, and the Wicked Witch is dead. Should we draw to a close? What are your best? What are the best and worst moments of the last call?
Just listening to you drone on and on about, you know, actually, no, listening to you tell the same story and not even realizing that you have done episode to episode.
Hey,
I felt so bad about interrupting you and reminding you. By the way, I don't think this is finished. I don't think you can't quit me and vice versa. We're going to want to continue this Anglo-American transatlantic relationship.
You don't
know what's going to happen.
I woke up in the middle of the night and just said, this, I mean, it's true. I think you're right. So we're not going to.
We're not going to do it every day, and we might not do it every week, but we'll check in. Yeah.
Okay, that's the deal. No, but the other day,
remember, this started as a therapy session for the two of us. And when in the history of therapy or psychoanalysis has anyone ever said you're cured? Right? So it's going to carry on and on until one or both of us croaks.
Yeah, indeed. You're the younger man, so I think the odds are with you.
Never know.
But I would no. So the other day, I remembered I was talking about Arizona, and I remembered I hitchhiked around the United States because I'd read on the road, and I thought that was kind of a thing you could do. And I wanted to be Jack Kerouac. I did it in 1977 or 78, and I was lucky not to have my arm sort of chainsawed off. But nevertheless, I hitchhiked around the States, and in Arizona, I got a ride, and somebody gave me some magic mushrooms. I didn't really realize what was happening. I was complete innocent, and I can remember having a trip on the magic mushrooms.
Does this end with you in the South Bronx wearing shorts?
Yeah, and I at some point
you literally told this story yesterday.
Yeah.
Literally. You asked me, this is the most meta moment. Okay, so this is the second worst
No.
moment of,
But the phrase was, this is a psychedelic pan-galactic mindfuck, while we were waiting for the votes to go the right way. I didn't use that phrase yesterday, did I? Good.
no,
I don't think I
you
did.
told the same story. So as a,
No, but
jumping off point.
what I'm getting to is, this has been the last call, and waiting for good in America to defeat the bad in America in this way has been a psychedelic pan-galactic mindfuck. But tonight it feels as though the good in America has won. And boy, do I drink to that. Cheers. Right. You've been listening to The Last Call with John Sweeney in London and Mike Weiss in New York. To be continued.
Maybe. All right.